Perfect. Okay. Also, I don't know, I can't remember if I mentioned before, but I also have EDS, gastroparesis, POTS, in the process
Oh,
of being
she's
evaluated for MCAS, like
yeah.
the whole, yeah.
It's like a gift that keeps on giving, isn't it? It does never. There's never a dull moment, is there?
It's like been, I feel like it's not just opening one can of worms. It's like each doctor's office or each visit is like it's a whole other,
Yeah,
its own can of
yeah.
worms.
I don't think I've ever not gone a whole year without a new diagnosis. I don't
Yeah.
think it's constant, isn't it? Which then affects more of the cooking, gastroparesis, that obviously has its own problems, and then EDS in general that can affect the ability to cook physically. And then you've obviously got MCAS, which is, the allergies towards foods and sensitivities and stuff. So it's kind of like a little battle going on, isn't it, when it comes to that kind of problem. And I think that's the problem with like my gut and stuff, because there's so many different factors. It's harder to treat because it's not just one, it's like a whole like mixture of issues in the gut. So but it's good to talk to somebody who loves to cook as well with all the conditions. So
and your account really, like, so the gastroparesis I was diagnosed with 8-9 months ago now, but it hasn't been that long, and I was working full time. So I was working full time in a kitchen. I was working as like the operations manager and the head baker for a cheesecake company, and just like was kind of floored at the thought of, and I'd like been put on different diets by doctors and stuff. Like I'd done gluten-free and like dairy-free and all the, low FODMAP, whatever. But there was like something about this that I had a really hard time wrapping my head around, like, how can I like have the same relationship with food now? And I really struggled with that for a while. And so seeing accounts like yours particularly, like someone who really, how do I put this? Like your love of cooking feels very pure. Like, it's just like a true love of being in the kitchen and cooking. And I share that as well. And so it was really, like reassuring to see that doesn't need to change or go away.
With like cooking, I know obviously the relationship with food really does get affected when you go through digestive problems, but for me cooking is so much more than just the eating. Of course I'd love to taste, or I'd love to have my creations, but there's so much creativity involved, and that's what I just love about it. Like it's like a form of therapy for me. It's just a place that I just really enjoy getting creative, and even though I can't eat it, I still obviously enjoy the practical part of cooking. So but I do understand like it must been, it is a difficult situation when, especially with gastroparesis, because you obviously are feeling sick a lot, and you don't sometimes want to be around food if you're not feeling, if you're feeling quite sick, or on the other aspect of it, you've got really want to have it, but you know that your belly won't be able to like, get on with that dish. So it does brain like F you.
It's a weird like irony, like cognitive dissonance there. Yeah. Well, that's like kind of a good segue, I guess. My first question is just like, how did you get into cooking, and like how did you like find this love of cooking?
Yeah, so my cooking kind of love came at a really young age, when I was like cooking with my mom, and especially my nan, when I was like just kids, like baking and stuff. And it just grew from there. Like I've always been really hands-on and creative. Like I've loved anything to do with, pottery. It could be crafts at school, anything. So my love grew, especially in year 7, when it's your first year of secondary school, when I started to cook on a Tuesday evening when my mom and dad were out. So it was like cooking for the family, and it wasn't just a creativity I had as a freedom that I loved about it. It was also like cooking something for my family. Like it was a role that I really like to do. And then after that, I did do GCSE food tech. And then I went on to obviously the catering college, but I was only able to do a year until my like health deteriorated to a point where I just couldn't continue the 3-year course, which was quite hard to swallow, but it wasn't my like intention to not go back. I was going to have like a year off to see if I can get things better and then hopefully go back, but it never happened. So, but I don't feel too hard done by, because the beauty of cooking is you don't need to be taught. It's not something you need to like kind of have a degree for or really go to college for. Obviously it's a good way of getting the foundation of cooking, but you don't need that. You can it's self-taught. You could there's a lot of things out there that you don't need that kind of qualification. So yeah, so that's how it kind of I guess started. And we're a very big kind of like cooking family as well anyway, like my great aunts and stuff like that, they're all like bakers and stuff. So yeah, I was being quite lucky to have a family like that, I think, which kind of like grew that passion and like nurtured that passion. So
I'm the same way. I like family, getting together with family just means eating. Like
that's the problem as well. There's so much social, and it's lovely, but at the same time you see how much like food plays a part in general life and like the social element, like everything's evolved around food, which does become a problem if you do have things that do restrict you from being able to. I still join in, I still go to restaurants, I love it. Like I love to see what's on a menu or like getting ideas, or like I have a thing of smelling. So I'm like, oh, they always know to put a spoon up in my face, and I'm like, because I can smell, like I can imagine what it smells like by smelling it. So I'm like, let's have a whiff. So
I like to hold my boyfriend's cup of coffee in the morning because I can't drink coffee anymore, but I miss it so much and I just love the smell. So I just like having the feeling of like holding a warm cup of coffee and smelling it.
Yeah. At least we have our senses, because that does play a part also with my cooking now. So definitely helps.
So do you taste your food when you cook or not at all?
No. Obviously that wouldn't, you could, a lot of people who, can't eat or nibble their mouth or what have you, do chew and spit or taste and spit. But for me, one, I feel that's more teasing.
Yeah.
So I taste it, I'm like, oh my God, like, and you just probably end up like swallowing it and be like, But secondly, it produces like too much like gastric acid and stuff, because your body, like your stomach's thinking you're getting something. So it actually makes me feel more sick, because then it just produces more like digestive enzymes, because it's like how like chewing gum is, where you can get obviously issues and stuff because it's like, oh, something's coming. So yeah, I just think for me that doesn't work. So it's literally on appearance, texture, smells. A lot of thought goes into the flavors and the textures before I cook as well. And for some reason I just know what goes. Like I might have never had it before, but whether or not I've just picked up as a dictionary as I've kind of grown up, you see different combinations on menus or books, like it's just kind of stored in my brain, and it's just being intuitive and hoping it works. But a lot of the time obviously I do definitely get somebody to taste it at the end and just check the balance, and I have to explain kind of the kind of taste that I'm looking for. So they have thousands of questions to ask, really. I'm like, is it like this, does it need to be more like this? Or so they kind of get overwhelmed, so I'm just like bang 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 bang. but yeah, and then I'm not far off a lot of the time. There's not been many recipes that we haven't been able to communicate and try and get right, but it can be quite frustrating if I've got an idea of what I want it like, and it's maybe they're not sure, or we can't get that like right. But again, it's just learning and it's developing, and there is going to be obviously going to be with any cook, even if they do be able to eat, there's obviously still going to be times where you just need to improve something. So
and your roommate Amy, right, she's the one who like does the photography for your page and eats a lot of what you cook. Was she like, I kind of hate the word foodie, but was she a
Mhm.
foodie before y'all met, before you lived together, or is that like?
I, she loves the food. I'll tell you that. Like she's a very big like she loves the food. And she's got a guilty pleasure of photographing food, which was perfect really, because it's kind of
Yeah,
like I would love someone to photograph, and she was just there. But it happened in lockdown. Obviously I love to cook, and it was the first lockdown. Obviously everyone was not sure what to do, like, so we tried to have a little like fun project. And then one day she thought, oh, I'm just gonna get a camera out, because obviously she hasn't been able to work. And we started taking photos, and it just went off like that really. And we realized we actually had something like really good. We're quite a good team. Like I do the food, and she obviously tastes, and I still get like family and friends to taste as well. But I feel very fortunate to have her skills on tap really.
and like what is the best part of running the page, like,
I would say
or what's your favorite part?
my favorite. Again, it's having that creativity of being able to like produce recipes and have a platform to share them on. But it was also, I feel like, because I haven't, because of the conditions I've had, I hadn't been able to go back to like work related like cooking.
Mhm.
And when we started the page, I had no idea about recipe development and food styling, and kind of creating recipes for brands and stuff. And I didn't realize that was even really something that I just didn't know it was really an option. And then I was like, wow, this is something that I could do at home while I'm juggling all my health problems. And it was the first time like I can actually get paid for doing what I love. And it was also like just like you say, just sharing my recipes and having a voice on a platform, which I lost a long time ago when I was going through all my stuff. So I feel like I've been very fortunate, and all the opportunities that have come my way since obviously starting my page, and kind of just showing that I can, you can still cook. It doesn't stop you despite what limitations you have. Like if you like to do it, then bloody do it. Like, don't let people think, you can't because you can't taste. Like changing people's perspective, I like the thought of trying to do. That was more
Yeah.
than one, but
No, I love it. But yeah, I mean, like, there's so many. I think one of the things that I'm trying to do with my group is show that there are so many ways to still be involved in food and still cultivate that love and joy,
yeah,
that so many of us find in food, apart from, working a traditional kitchen job, or apart from, cooking and eating and like kind of interacting with food
yeah,
in these very expected ways. You were talking about like getting paid for recipe development. I'm working on an article about baking with brain fog, and it's like my first paid article, and that's I'm
yeah,
having
this was
so much.
amazing.
Thank you. I'm having so much fun with it, and I'm
Yeah,
not sure that it's anything that I would have considered or tried to go after or done,
that,
if I wasn't disabled, if I wasn't chronically ill. I think,
I wouldn't have come across that like that area of work either. So
yeah,
it comes with its good bits, doesn't it? In a way,
there's
and a different
there's a silver
way. Like I
lining.
still at it. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. But yeah, the creativity, I think that, I don't know. I think that like being disabled, like having to figure out a different type of relationship to food makes you even more creative.
yeah.
Um, yeah,
That is definitely true.
yeah.
I agree with.
So one of my other questions is like, how has your cooking changed over the years? Like since your diagnoses, since starting TPN, like has there been kind of an evolution with the foods that you cook or the way that you cook?
I would say it's more so, again, more thought goes into a recipe before I kind of do it, I guess. And I have to be, again, rely on more of my senses than anything else. So it was more of like the practical side of thinking like, is this going to work? And just, you know, obviously the smells and the textures and the stuff. Apart from that, like I used to do a lot of long-winded recipes when I was obviously a bit more well. That's not, I can't particularly do that anymore. So it's things that I know that's not too daunting or too long, and it's physically like more possible. But apart from that, like obviously I still cook pretty much the same, but you just need to be more conscious really and a bit more intuitive, because you don't rely on your taste buds and stuff like that anymore.
Yeah. I love how much you're talking about like texture and visuals too, because those are huge parts of, you know, the way that we eat and the way that we enjoy food. And I think a lot of they're underappreciated in a lot of
yeah. I think like it's more heightened now. Like the smell, my sense of smell is heightened so much more. Like I've got a very hypersensitive nose, so it's like I feel like, you know how some people say that if you lose your sight, you hear so much, like
mm-hmm.
you hear differently again. So I feel like probably my nose is the same, but I can pick up, like I can literally smell something and probably know how it tastes. It's very weird. It is pretty weird, but I don't mind it. It's good. It's a good thing, really.
Yeah, that sounds great.
Superpower.
Okay, let's see. So I guess like sticking on this thread, like what are your favorite things to cook? And I would love to know, like, what are your favorite things to cook on a day where you have like all the energy, all the spoons, you know, you're going to dive deep in, and on the days where you're like, I want to get in the kitchen, like I want that, you know, sense of satisfaction. I want that creativity, but you know, I'm super exhausted or brain foggy, or like I don't have the spoons for a big project.
Oh, that's difficult. Like there's so many like little bits, but I don't know, because I've done like, for instance, a vegan take on, say, cannelloni, but that takes an awful lot of time just because you have to make the mince and then make the sauce and make the pasta. But generally nowadays, if I'm honest, I am put off by long-winded recipes, just because even if I have a low, even if I've got good spoons, I still probably wouldn't want to waste all my energy on something long. But I love at the moment to cook, like I actually haven't got the recipe out yet, but it's throw in any veg curry and it's just, it smells so good. And that's another thing, I just love the smell. And it's just at the end of the week, you've got all these veg left over, or the best thing I like about cooking is going into the fridge and looking what's there and cooking something. That's my favorite ready steady cook kind of like vibe I love to do. But this curry, like I found that works for so many things, and it's just so quick and tasty. And it's also like any veg that are kind of a bit dying, you can just whack in, but the sauce just works so well with it all. And it's a one pot as well, and it's just something that I really like. It's like peanut butter and like coconutty, so it's kind of like a satay kind of vibe. But again, I do find like batch cooking really helpful when you've got no spoons, or doing something that you can kind of cook in advance and finish it off. So I could do like a sauce that I freeze, and then I could on the day fry off vegetables and chickpeas or whatever, and then add that sauce. So you can just kind of use different components to kind of batched recipes to make something kind of different. But yeah, I do like to just cook with whatever we've got, really, because I feel like you're much more creative if you only got like 3 ingredients or a few ingredients. You have to get much more creative in the kitchen to try and like produce something that actually is tasty. But yeah, I feel like just this curry, it's, again, I will be putting on the Instagram, but I haven't actually got around to doing it yet. I've probably cooked it twice, and I've got so many batches in the freezer, so I won't be able to cook it again for a while until Amy's eating them all up.
that I've become best friends with my freezer. And it does help a lot with, you're talking about kind of breaking recipes up and batch cooking. And yeah, oh my gosh, I got a big chest freezer and being able to, recently it's been oatmeal. Like I found this frozen
Oh
oatmeal that I really
wow.
liked, but it was really expensive. So I figured out I just like, yeah. So I cooked up, I like the steel cut oats, like, because
Yeah.
I like the texture, but they take like 45 minutes to cook. So I cook a huge batch and then I freeze it in silicone molds.
Mhm.
And then I just like, put a couple little, like, they come out in bars, they're like candy bar molds. I put a couple bars in a bowl and stick it in the microwave with like a tablespoon of water and microwave it for a couple minutes. So easy. But that has just like streamlined my mornings. I can cook a
Mhm.
huge batch every few weeks.
You
Yeah.
wouldn't want to stand at the kitchen every day for 45 minutes just stirring oats, would you? But I get why they are decent when they're like that. They're much more creamy, I think, as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're nice.
And
Yeah.
with the gastroparesis diet, it's all soft food, slow cooked food. So that curry
Yeah.
actually sounds delicious.
Yeah. Yeah, I do want to start doing a bit more gut friendly recipes on my page. So I know how difficult it is to find things that are kind of tasty that kind of you're able to eat, like people can eat on a diet, because fiber is not always good for gastroparesis, but then soft foods, like it's normally just have to eat white stuff, don't you? Like they just say, oh yeah, just eat white stuff, it's no vegetables, but there is ways of doing it. But I remember when I was on it, it was very boring if I stuck to the normal kind of, but not sprucing it up a bit.
Yeah. I've really been trying to meet my dietitian halfway and like, okay, I'll take my normal, like, the way that I normally cook and just put it in a slow cooker instead, try and, get it a little softer, break it down, but definitely not going to compromise on flavor.
No, me too.
Um, so you're talking about kind of batch cooking and breaking recipes up and kind of pacing yourself that way. But are there other ways that you have made your kitchen more accessible?
I would really like to have lower kitchen tops, just because then I use a like a wheelie swivel stool.
Mhm.
I wouldn't be able to cook without it really, because it's just so energy preserving and I just whiz around the kitchen on it. But a lot of the normal standard sizes are too low. So you're literally like that when you're trying to like cut something. Like you can't see what you're cutting or stirring. I might end up standing up because I can't see what I'm, doing. So it took me a long time to find a stool that wasn't a normal height, like the limit. So I've managed to find one, but ideally, yeah, I hopefully, like if we do end up moving, I'd get lower countertops. And the one thing I probably couldn't always cook with, like if I obviously wasn't feeling well, like I just wouldn't do it. But the stools kind of enabled me to carry on, because I'm just sitting down, it's not too much of an issue for like pots and stuff as well. So that's the one thing that's really made a massive difference. And just like gadgets and stuff, like finding knives that kind of are more easy on the wrists, for your joints and stuff, or openers and like that kind of thing. But apart from that, just really the stool's been the most kind of life changing in terms of the support I needed to cook.
I love the idea of a rolly stool. I've got just like a stationary one that I drag around the kitchen, but the idea of being able to like roll around, that makes so much more sense. I should look
Yeah,
into
so you
that.
have to like get up and walk and move. It's just like you're on it, and you like use the surfaces to like move. So you're like wing, like wee.
Sounds like a blast.
Yeah. Apart from if you need to have obviously not a thin. I had one at this stall, but it was a massive base and used to clonk all the cabinets. So I managed to find one with like a small base, so I can actually still get around and not run Amy's feet over. So yeah, that's not the helpfulest, is it?
Um, let's see. Do you have like what tips or advice do you have for disabled or chronically ill people who kind of maybe are in the situation that I was in last year of like wanting to be in the kitchen, but maybe feeling like that's not possible because of dietary restrictions or because of, you know, fatigue or stamina or mobility limitations, you know, any of that.
I get, again, like, you know, the physical side would be, you know, finding a stool or a swivel stool, prepping ahead, like batching. I do a lot of prepping, so if I know it's a big long recipe, I would like chop something up then for one day, or cook something one day and then I'd finish it off the next day. So I do it in like stages. So the cannelloni, I made the spaghole up the day before and then I finished it off the next day with the sauce and stuff, just so it's kind of breaking it down into mini chunks. And then I would say, like, as a kind of emotional, mental kind of side of things, again, I can imagine, like, I feel like it takes some time to digest, like, how things
No
are.
pun
And
intended.
yeah. Yeah. And yeah, and it can take a while to, you know, feel that you can probably get back in the kitchen again. With me, it was a very slow decline. So when I was really unwell, I didn't manage to get in the kitchen for ages because I was physically too unwell to do it. So in that time, I feel like I managed to, you know, accept a bit more my situation, but also my love of cooking never kind of like died, really. Like, the flame is still going because it was a passion, and I saw it more as a creative outlet than something that I need to fuel my body with. So it's kind of like, I guess, trying to see cooking in a different light. And that could be cooking things like trying to get inventive with things that the limited amount that you can eat, like, or like the kind of foods, it's trying to think, okay, I can tolerate this, what can I do? And it's kind of using that as a creative way, or, you know, to see if you can, you know, spruce up anything yourself. Or it could be a way of like, look, I can't eat this, but I really want to cook it, like, let's make it and have other people enjoy it. But again, I think like everyone's different. Like, if for instance I was a normal person and I was eating and then all of a sudden things really like change stomach wise, that's a very big like change in life that you didn't have time to, like, I had a lot of years of crap.
Yeah.
So it was more easier, I guess, for me personally to deal with, because also my relationship with food at the end of it was gone anyway, because food just was pain and sickness. And so, you know, it wasn't like I had such a love for food and I can't have it, if that makes sense. It was more like it just equaled just misery with my like digestive stuff. So yeah, that's all I can really think about. And I feel like that shouldn't stop you from getting in the kitchen. I feel like we've got a lot of perceptions and, you know, beliefs, not just in, you know, if you can't eat it, you can't cook it. It could also be like, you know, athletes and stuff, like, you can't run because you've got no leg. I know it's obviously to do with, you know, they've got a lot of Paralympics, but it started like that. And I feel like with cooking, it's the kind of the same. Like, there's a limitation, but it doesn't mean that you can't find your way around obstacles. There's always going to be a way, like how you're writing that article and how I found a way of cooking, you know, and developing recipes, and it doesn't have to be in a commercial kitchen. Like, there's ways to do it. It's just having to get imaginative. I can't even say it. Imaginative. No. Use your imagination. There we go.
Yeah. So I'm curious because I you know, have worked in kitchens, kind of worked in the food and bev industry for 5-6 years on and off, but I'm totally self-taught. It was like a, you know, part-time gig when I was in college to start with. As someone who kind of has experienced, you know, you did a year of culinary school, you kind of have been in that formal world, there is a lot of ableism there. Like, it's not a very accessible industry. Like, what, I guess I don't even know what my question is. Like, do you see that changing? Like, where do you see
I
disabled and
really
chronically
hope
ill people
so.
fitting in? Like,
I feel when I was at college, it was years ago, and I wasn't really, that was when I was 16. I didn't really have much of like massive issues during, physically that bad. But what was in there, it was a lot of, it's a demanding role. The kitchens are like obviously quite small, and I've worked in some kitchens as well. And I feel like we've got a long way to go until there's enough accessibility and equality. Like there's just at the moment there could be just a few places that may have someone. This is also in the like bars and waiters and stuff. There's no one I have seen that is disabled, what is classed as disabled, working. And yeah, I would hope with like me and yourself, like kind of us kind of shining the light might, you kind of bridge the gap, because there's definitely a place for us, but it just needs to become more accessible. Which I don't know how, there's certain kitchens and how it runs and the structure of the kitchen, like it is a difficult one to try and implement in the whole of the industry. But I do hope there will be some changes, especially with more people being, especially on social media. It's a way of trying to spread awareness and also, create change, like much needed change.
Like, what do you think the role of food media and like food social media is in that?
In terms of my profile,
I guess in terms of like changing the conversation or creating a space for disabled and chronically ill people. I've found that it's more accessible for me.
Definitely, with like obviously that's given me a job that I hadn't had in, I never was able to really get a job which I could do what I enjoyed to do alongside like all my health stuff. So it was a way of someone being able to like combine it around like their home life, because it would be, it's more of a home-based job. But I feel obviously social media's like given a lot of people more work, who especially with COVID and stuff, like how many work from home job opportunities are there now? Like it's increased by numbers. So but if I think about just in general the food kind of media, it's a bit sad, because I don't think I personally I don't know if I haven't looked properly, but I don't know many people else who are, kind of disabled and cook. Like I could not, I might just not be searching. Obviously I've seen, you're the only first platform with the Demi community. Is that how you say it?
Mm-hmm.
Demi or yeah, I wasn't sure. That's been brilliant. That's the first time I've seen a collective of people who, do have illnesses and chronic illnesses who like to cook. And I have come across a lot of kids who've messaged me, and I feel like they felt like they couldn't cook, and now they just feel like they can do whatever they want and they're invincible, and they can see I'm doing it, so they're going to be doing it. So it's just nice to get like the new generation to hopefully have a different, I guess, view, and it will come with more opportunities. The more we're out there, the more accessible, and the more I would hope, kind of jobs or opportunities come for people who've got disabilities to be able to be more involved, I think. I know there's like a gay community for chefs, but that's another good way of, I guess, I don't know what it's called. Have you heard of it? It's
no.
I have to try and find the Instagram, but again they're highlighting the areas, and it's just really nice to see someone also doing the kind of chronic community. But yeah, that's very long-winded. I don't think I answered that either.
No, that's I mean, I started the group because I didn't even set out like to start the group. I just messaged him and was like, hey, I'm a disabled, food lover, kind of amateur chef. Like, I'm looking for this kind of community. I can't find it. Will you start it? And then they asked if I wanted to.
Isn't one. And
But
tell
yeah,
you.
I've looked, and it's, I've found some individuals, and been able to connect with really, really amazing people like you, but there hasn't been the kind of networking platform or place for us to
No,
connect.
I didn't even twig until you got in touch. I hadn't even thought about it. I was thinking, oh my God, yeah, like there's literally, I don't know anyone who works, I don't even know anyone who works in like commercial kitchens and stuff that, yes, of course, they, you've got, you might have, or, autistic people or anything like that in kitchens, or, maybe Down syndrome, but not anyone really with, kind of wheelchair bound, or there's other kind of limitations. I haven't found anyone who like does work in the commercial world, or even does say that they're kind of a chef and they've got chronic illnesses. So it's interesting to see, because I'm sure there's people out there, or they may feel like they can't because of how society has deemed that cooking or chefing is for kind of abled bodies, and with no disabilities or anything like that. So you've definitely sparked a big, I think, hopefully a good way to change people's perspectives and to really think about things, and also a community for support for other people, to show that we can, or you can, and just people's experiences, I think, as well, like just show, oh, you know what, they're doing it, like why can't I? So I feel like you've got something very precious there.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm really, really excited about it. I'm really hoping that it kind of takes off even more than it has.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, our first guest speaker was a chef, Eli Kulp, who is based in Philadelphia. He no longer works as a chef now. He's a restaurant. Oh, what is his? No, he's the culinary director of a restaurant group, but he uses a wheelchair. And so we kind of part of our conversation was about finding space for disabled people in the industry, and his role as a culinary director. I think one of the interesting things about his story, though, is that he kind of had this very successful career as a chef, and then was in an accident and was disabled.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a different situation than, for people like us who have been kind of sick since we were young, or, for the majority of our adult lives. But yeah, it's interesting.
That is, and especially how well, I take his hat, my hat off to him, that he stuck by and continued his career. Like that didn't stop him, and it shouldn't stop him. So hopefully that's another way of like trying to get accessibility, because some restaurants will, like some I'm sure would cater towards people's needs, but it wouldn't be a widespread thing anytime soon.
Yeah.
But I'm hoping like you've got inspiring people like him as well, that he might be able to make those changes needed.
Yeah. Was there anything else that I think I've gone through my questions, but I don't know, was there anything else, anything that you had that you wanted to talk about?
I don't know how many people would know, because I only haven't really mentioned it a lot, but I also have ADHD, and
Me
the
too.
other type, ADD, right? I've got to say, cooking is a challenge. Like I I don't know how I could, honestly, like the amount of effort, stress, and like I'm not a normal cook, if you what you call it. Like I have to do one thing at a time. Like I forget ingredients all the time. Oh fuck. Like, oh sorry, I've like forgot something, or forgot to put something in, or like it is hectic in my life with cooking, but I still love it. But it is a thing that I don't think a lot of people are aware how much that also affects cooking, because it's trying to multitask when your brain can't do that. And it comes with a lot of, on top of, the physical issues with the conditions. It's hard enough, but then it does take so much longer because I can only concentrate on one thing at a time. So a roast, that's difficult. The amount of like things that need to be done at the same time, and the forgetfulness, and but again, that's helped me also just because it makes me overthink, and actually that's good for recipes. So I can really overthink a recipe, but that means analyze every single part to create something like really nice. So the overthinking is a way of my strategy, I guess, to create a recipe without tasting it. So it has its pros, but I've got to say that I don't think a lot of people realize the disability that it can actually cause, obviously psychologically, but that's another kind of issue that I do struggle with cooking. I'm not sure I could even cook in a kitchen anymore, just because how they can time things now and not forget things. Like I wouldn't burn something on the hob, but if I've got some toast in the toaster, well, that's going to be a charcoal, because it's just like the brain.
My time blindness. Oh my goodness.
I
feel,
isn't it, as well, brain fog from chronic fatigue and EDS. You've got the brain fog on top of that, and then on top of just feeling tired. Like how I can get a dish out normally is crazy.
That's like one of the biggest reasons I started doing the oatmeal in the morning, is because my brain fog is so bad in the mornings, and then with the ADHD, it just, the two together, I cannot cook myself breakfast first thing in the morning. Like all I can do is throw something in the microwave. Like I've tried, and I will just kind of like wander circles around my kitchen for 45 minutes. Like
it just everything just takes so much longer, honestly. But I it comes with its pros, but I gotta say, trying to get my like balance of recipe developing and like content creation and looking after my, like, listening to my body just doesn't happen. Like I've really struggling with like balance, but that's not because it's not manageable, like what the work I'm doing with food, but it's just generally like hyper focusing on something, or like wanting to be on the go, but then my body just gets left out. So it is something that I definitely need to work on, and the amount of effort really that recipes come into when you're kind of recipe developing or food styling is ridiculous. Like I didn't know how much was it. You have to develop the recipe, and then you cook the recipe, and if it's a video, it will take another 2 hours because you've got to weigh everything and show it, and oh my god, and then you have to like photograph it and then edit the photographs, write up the recipe, post it on the website, and then post it on Instagram, and then do the hashtags. So it's a massive long process. It's not easy, and it does take your spoons up, but I do still love it, and it's given me a lot of meaning and purpose. So it's feeling very grateful about it all.
That sense of accomplishment, I think, I mean, there are a million reasons why I love to cook and love to be in the kitchen, but if the one thing that I can do that day is just have that small sense of accomplishment from cooking something, and it can be the most simple thing, but just like being able to see it in front of you and like have that visual, have that like end product, especially with when you're talking about chronic illness and disability and these things that it takes ages, it drags on and on and on. It's weeks and weeks of calling doctors and trying to schedule and waiting to it feels like, oh my god, so little happens like on a reasonable schedule, and I feel like it's so hard to like have those really tangible wins, that I think that's part of why I have clung so much to cooking, and why it's so important to me, especially now, is because it's very tangible. It's very like in the moment, like you know, I can do this. I can.
Yeah. Also, it changes things up. Say if I haven't been feeling well all day and I haven't really been able to move from the sofa, like then just thinking, oh, let's cook some dinner tonight for Amy. It's just like something just to do, like to take your mind off of the normality and just get in your own little bubble and just start creating something. It doesn't have to be anything, you know, like you say, like anything like major, you know, or, you know, fine dining or anything. You can just get something in the pan and start cooking. Like it's just a little break from the day. So I do feel, you know, I'm the same. It kind of gives you that sense of achievement and maybe not structure, but it's again just doing something. And you're not in control of it, but you can just do what your free will, which I like, because a lot of things are very having to be controlled. You have to take your tablets at a certain time, and you have to put your food on at a certain time, and you've got to do this at a certain time, and you can't do something at that. So then having food like to cook, and I can do whatever I bloody want. Like it's just a freedom outlet for me as well. Like I can just let loose the only time I can normally during the day.
Yeah. So, and that's so interesting that, because I kind of see it. I mean, I very much agree, but then also kind of see it in the other way, where like all of my health stuff feels so out of control that cooking I can control. You know, I can control what I'm doing in the kitchen, and I can determine the final outcome, and you know, it's predictable.
I feel that's something that we need when we're chronically ill, because every day, I'm not sure if you're the same, but it's so unpredictable. I don't know what I'm going to wake up like I was also like concerned about, am I going to be okay enough for the meeting? No, it's just constantly just there in your head. So like you say, like you've got something like that where you can just relax a bit and know nothing's going to give surprises apart from if you burn the bread. You're all good.
Yeah, it's really funny. I was mentioning to my therapist a while back that I've started to get like, it feels like more like emotionally invested in my cooking, where like if something goes wrong, I'll get a lot more like, you know, upset or frustrated. And I was trying to reflect on that, and I was like, I think it's because I really am just like looking for what I can control in my life and what can be predictable.
One thing I go like a dragon is if I've taken all my spoons up, and one thing I can't bear is if my energy's wasted, because it's just like I have so little. So if I'm cooking something and something goes wrong or it doesn't turn out how I want to, I just get so like, God's sake, like all my spoons have just been taken up and I've just wasted my time on something that I could have just used all those, you know, hours on for something else. Like I do get quite, and especially if it's a recipe that we then shoot, or for, I don't know, there's a few times that we've done things and I'm like, Amy's just like, I'm just going like, bye. Because it's just like, I can't bear to like waste my energy. And yeah, it doesn't happen a lot, but when it does, I'm not getting in the kitchen again, but it's in my head, like I am having to redo that, I'm having to get it right. So it's like this challenge, like I'm not going to give up, but at the same time I'm like, no, I'm never going in the kitchen again. Like literally
feels like the stakes are higher for us.
Yeah. And I don't think people understand that. Like you could be slaving over a stove, making yourself feel really unwell, because generally after whatever I've done, I feel like a ton of crap and I won't be doing anything for a few days.
Yeah.
And I've wasted my energy and I haven't even got anything out of it. That's the main thing. Like, but again, it's a mistake. I need to think, you know, without mistakes, you can't win at life, and you know that they're there to be learned by. So I just have to be not so detrimental, I think.
And I think it's funny that we've spent this whole time talking about how it's the process of cooking that we love. It's not like, you know, having something at the end to eat. It's just the act of doing it. It's just being in the kitchen, but then we're also so attached to having that perfect end product.
Yeah. Oh, that's hilarious. No, it is true. But I do love it. And also like seeing people's like reactions and stuff to food. Like it's a sense of achievement as well. If you don't feel like you've achieved much all day, obviously you are, because you're still here and you're still battling on. But like something like that where, you know, you have got that sense of achievement, you've just made a dish, everyone loves it, like just gives you a bit of warmth in the belly, I think.
Yeah,
really nice feeling.
I love feeding other people. It's the best
Yeah.
feeling.
Feeder, Amy doesn't mind, so she's like, oh, okay, come cook tonight, that's fine. I've been stuck in the bedroom for the last week because
How are you feeling?
I haven't got COVID, thank God. I have no idea how I've not got away with it. I have no idea. Like, I was around my mum who had it for days, and we had a cold, and she was like, oh, I don't think it is. So I was around even when she was having symptoms, and she came out with it, and I was like, oh my God, like, I can't afford to get long COVID as well, because I just thought, we have long COVID on top, like, we don't need it again. But I've just been cautious and stayed just in case. I wouldn't want to give it to whoever had it, but I haven't actually got it at the moment. Well, I haven't. It's been 8 days now, and I'm still testing negative, so
that's awesome.
I'm very grateful, because I was a bit worried, more so like if I have a dip in health, like my page will also get affected, my recipes won't be done, I won't be able to get in the kitchen. Like, I've got hopefully a very exciting project coming on, which I can't particularly tell you, but it's exciting. It's cooking. It's hinting along like a cooking show type thing. That's all I'm going to say. So that's
I can't wait to see.
Yeah, that's really cool. So I was like, please to God, like, please don't be ill, because I won't be able to do that. But yeah, all good. So she hasn't had my cooking for a week, and I'm like, different. So I hated it not being in it, because normally if I do anything all day, I've got the evening to be like looking forward to cooking. So to not have that, I well missed it. And also just the smell of food. Like, yesterday I finally got out and I was cooking onions, and I was just like, oh my God, the smell. So I just like had no sensation of, like, not because of COVID, but I've been stuck in a room, like. But yeah, it does show how much I do rely on cooking for like a form of therapy for myself. I think a lot of people see it that way as well, but I don't know if you are as well, but I'm a very hands-on person, and just like, I just love like physical making and stuff like that. It's an outlet. And
I think that's part of the ADHD thing too. Like, we're just like, I also learn better, like, someone can tell me how to do something, but until I actually do it myself,
I completely agree. And that was difficult, because I was in the room like just restless. Like, the problem is with, again, ADHD is your brain's always on, and you always wanting to do something. My body can't catch up, so it's like this constant like brain over body
tug of war. Yeah,
I completely blew myself out last year. I'm still getting over it now, but I think the week doing nothing was helpful, but I was so burnt out. I was really not well at all. But that's, again, not because of I can't handle what we're doing. It's more like I just so overdid it. I just didn't give myself the physical break I needed. So I learned the hard way, and I think that's the only way that I don't think I'm ever gonna learn from it, if I'm honest. But I'm getting better at listening and boundarying, kind of pacing and stuff like that. And I'm doing more. I naturally did that with my food cooking. You would prep before, you would cook something and then finish it off the next day. Like, I found that a really better way of cooking for me. So I'm doing it slowly but surely. But yeah, it's about
the pacing is that's one of the hardest things for me too, because I love to get lost in a cooking project and not have to think about how is this going to make me feel later today or tomorrow, or
you get so excited, you're in the moment, like,
yeah,
that's hard to be like to yourself. No, it's like a kid in a sweet shop, like dragging them out before they had time to pick something, like,
yeah,
that's how it feels. But